Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do the second part of the Moivre's theorem today. We're going to do actually the nth root part. So let's look at that. So we're going to go to page 508 where it says the roots of complex numbers. So basically we're going to go backwards now. So in the definition of the blue box, the definition of the nth root of a complex number. So if I have a complex number that looked like this, and I have the solution here to the nth root, okay, so this would, V would be the nth root of the complex number Z, okay, all right? So that's what that says. And if Z was equal to 1, we would call that the nth root of unity, 1, right, of 1, right? Unit circle, 1, right, okay? So that's how that works. So if you look at page 509, it shows you how to do this. So if Z, let's go back to, if Z was equal to R CIS theta, right? Then this guy, the solution V would be equal to, obviously, the nth root of R, correct? Because I'm going to take this guy and take it to the nth power. If I take it to the nth power, this is R and R to the 1 over n. So when I take it to the nth power, it becomes R, right? Which is what it really needs to become, right? Then I'm going to have CIS theta divided by n. But I'm going to add this 2 pi k thing. So this is where you guys usually struggle on this, okay? And then k goes from 0, 1, all the way up to n minus 1, okay? So this is the part where you guys get a little confused here, okay? So we'll talk about that. So that's the purple box there, okay? All right? So let's see if we can actually use this and do example number 7. In example number 7, it says finding the fourth roots. Find the fourth roots of that guy there. So it says finding the fourth root of that. So this is example number 7. So finding the fourth root of, what is it? 5 CIS pi over 3, 5 CIS pi over 3. Okay? So I'm trying to find the fourth root of this. Okay? So my roots are going to be what? The first one is going to be equal to, so the fourth root of that, right? So fourth root, so V to the fourth is going to be equal to this. So we're going backwards, right? So this will be the fourth root of 5 CIS, and we pi over 3, so we divide that by 4, I get 12 plus 2 pi k here, okay? So the first one is going to be V1 is equal to over 5 CIS. The first one was k is equal to 0, so this goes to 0, so that's the first one. V2 is going to be equal to this guy, CIS, where k is equal to 1 now. So I get 3 pi on top divided by that, pi over, what, pi over 4? What's going on here? Okay, so we get that. And then 3 is equal to that, CIS, so I can't equal to 2 here, so I'm going to go with 2, so that's 4 pi, 5 pi, over 12, what's going on here? So I get 9 over half. First one was 0, second one was, oh, it's a fourth root. So it's the fourth here. Something was wrong here. This is fourth, right? So we're dividing it by 4, right? So the first one was, this was 0, so it's pi over, what do we have here? So let's go and start from the beginning. So I have pi over 3, so I have pi over 3, and then I'm going to divide that by 4th, so it's going to, okay, so here we go. So this is going to be equal to pi over 3 plus 2 pi k over 4. All right, so this is what it's going to look like. Okay, so let's go ahead and go v1. The first root is when k is equal to 0. So we're going to get CIS. This is 0, so I get pi over 12. Second one is when k is equal to 1, so I get 2 pi here. 2 pi plus pi over 3. So I'm going to get what? 3 over 7 pi, right? And then I'm going to divide that by 4. So I'm going to get CIS 7 pi over 4, correct? I mean 12. I can divide that by 4. So it'll be 12, right? And the third one would be this guy, CIS. This will be 2 now, so I have 4 pi here. 4 pi plus 1/3, so I have 4 pi plus 1/3 pi, divide that by 4. So up here I'm going to get 13 pi over 3, and then divide that by 4. So it'll be 13 pi over 12. And then I have V4, CIS, and then I'm going to get 3 here, so it's going to be 6 pi. So I'm going to get 6 pi here, plus 1/3, so it's going to be 19, right? 3 times 18 is 19, divided by 4. So I get 19 over 12 pi. Okay? So if you actually plot this on the unit circle, you'll find that the first root was this guy, 12 over pi, right? And the second one was this guy right here. Third guy is over here. The fourth guy is over here. In other words, I start here, and because I'm doing the fourth root, I go exactly 1/4 of the angle. So I'm going to go from here, add 1/2 a pi, 1/2 a pi, and then 1/2 a pi. All right. So I get this guy, add 1/2 a pi to get that, add another 1/2 pi to get that. In other words, the 4 roots are equally spaced across the unit circle. Let me go ahead and draw this a little better. So it's right over here, right? Pi over 12, because it's 15 degrees, right? Right here, and right here. So you're going to get 4 equally spaced, right? Okay, all right. So that's what that looks like. Let's do example number 8. See if we can try this again. Okay, example number 8. And asks for find the cube root of -1 and then plot them. So I'm trying to find this guy, right? So z cubed, something cubed is that guy, right? So this is going to be equal to what? This is going to be, so I have to find where it's cosine theta plus I sine theta, where this guy is 0 and this guy is -1. So if you look at if you think of it's going to be pi, correct? Pi. So in other words, this is CIS pi, okay? So, since this is also a unit, so this is unity, right? So this is unity, right? So let's go ahead and we're going to start with, so Z1 is equal to CIS pi over 3 plus 2 pi k. So it's going to be pi. We start with pi. over 3. We're going to go like that. So the first one is where k is equal to 0. So this is going to be z. So the first one is when this guy is 0. So I'm going to get CIS pi over 3. Nothing more than that. The second one where this guy is 1. So k is equal to 1. 2 pi plus, so I'm going to get 3 pi. So this is going to be equal to CIS pi. Right? Okay, the third one is going to be, this guy's going to be 2. So I'm going to get 4 pi plus that's 5 pi. So it's going to be CIS 5 pi over 3. Again, if I go ahead and draw this, I'm going to start with pi over 3. And I equally space 3 across. So to be equally spaced, I'm going to go 120 degrees over here, 120 degrees over here, right? So these are the 3, right? Pi over 3, pi, 5 pi over 3. Okay? And last but not least, let's go ahead and do example number 9. In example number 9, it asks us for find the eighth roots of unity. So 8th roots of unity, so I'm looking at that. So I'm going to have to place 1 is going to be equal to what? This is going to be equal to CIS 0, right? So it's going to be 0. Okay. Or you take 2 pi, whichever one you want. Book says, what goes with 2 pi? What goes with 0? Okay, we're good. 0. Okay, so 0. So z is equal to CIS 0 plus 2 pi k over 8. Right? Okay, so z1 is CIS. The first one is this one is 0, so you're going to be 0. Z2 is CIS, now this is going to be 1, so I'm going to get pi over 4, 2 pi over 8, right? Z3 is when this is going to be 2, so I'm going to get 4 pi, so it's going to be CIS pi over 2. And then the fourth one is going to be where this is going to be 3, so it's going to be 6 pi over 8. 6 pi over 8 is 3 pi over 4. Okay. Then over here I'm going to get the fifth one is when this is 4, so it's going to be 8 pi over 8, which is going to be pi 6. It's going to be when this is 5, so I get 10 pi over 8. 10 pi over 8 is the same as 5 pi over 4. Seventh one, it's going to be what? Seventh one is when this is 6, so it's going to be 12 pi over 8. 12 pi over 8 is going to be 3 pi over 2. And then 8, the last one is when this is 7, so it's going to be 14 pi over 8. So 14 pi over 8. That's what's going to be. Okay? So if you actually do this, what do I get? Cosine 0, which is 1, plus I sine 0, which is 0. I'm going to get what over here? I'm going to get root 2 over 2 plus I root 2 over 2. This is cosine pi over 4, sine pi over 4. Cosine pi over 2 is 0. Plus I sine pi over 2 is 1, so it's going to be just I. This is going to be what? This is going to be cosine pi over 3 pi over 4, which is negative root 2 over 2, plus I root 2 over 2. Over here I'm going to get cosine pi, which is negative 1, plus I sine pi, which is 0. Over here, I'm going to get cosine 5 pi over 4, negative root 2 over 2, plus sine 5 pi over 4, which is again is negative. So it's going to look like that. Cosine pi over 3 pi over 2, which is 0, plus I sine 3 pi over 2, which is negative 1. So So I'm going to get that. This guy over here is going to be root 2 over 2 negative I root 2 over 2. Okay? So you're going to get 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 roots of unity. Okay? All right. And that's good. We'll stop right there.